If you're an adult, a beginner, someone who's totally unconditioned to handstands, this daily practice is for you. I've seen much better results doing it on a daily basis compared to a 2-hour session once a month. We need to create some conditioning, we need to create some safety around going upside down. And I'll be combining this daily practice with 2 to 3 sessions a week, whether you're doing a longer, proper handstand workout. Now, the nice thing about a regular practice like this is that it only needs to be 5 to 10 minutes long. It's going to promote balance in the body, you're going to have better posture, so it's going to carry over to other things as well. Now, I recommend you base your daily practice around 5 key areas, and these are going to be dependent on your level, the equipment you have around you, and your space and your environment. So number 1, overhead mobility. Now you can mix these up, but I'd recommend something like a hang, yoga type shoulder mobility, thoracic foam rolling, but it could be anything that opens up the overhead position. So for the hanging, we want to be going shoulder width apart, aiming for 60 seconds in this position. If this is too challenging, have tiptoes on the floor. And if you struggle to have your hands that close, start wider, but with the goal of slowly bringing them in closer and closer. The yoga type shoulder mobility could be this position, so up onto fingertips, hands shoulder width apart, keep the toes pushed into the floor, hips above the knees, posterior tilt, so tuck the tail under, look at the fingers and take the chest down towards the floor and then hold there for time. Probably 30 seconds or 45 seconds in this position, or you could do 10, 15 seconds and then go back down again. Then you have other movements like down dog, raising the hands up on a box or a chair. So a few different variations there. Or one of my favorites, the thoracic foam rolling. So with the arms crossed, or you can take the arms above your head. Now for hip mobility, we need to work out what muscles surrounding the hip is the tightest for you or has the biggest impact on your postural position. So it could be quads, hip flexors, hamstrings, or glutes. So for this one, I'll be going into a lunge position, rocking forwards, trying to go into a strong posterior tilt. So that's more hip flexor. I can lift the back foot up, which is going to get hip flexor and quad. For hamstring, I can lock out the front knee, take fingers to the floor, palms to the floor, and if I have more range, walk the hands forward. And then for glutes, we can go into a pigeon stretch, so into a 90-90 position like this. Now you can see I fall out of that position, so I need to focus on getting over and down and taking the hips square and the chest down towards the knee. I could bring this foot round behind me. Now a lot of people will find that this hip flexor will hinder this position, so raising the foot up allows me to get a little bit more square in the hip and feel the stretch where I want to be feeling that stretch. So if you're like I was when I started, I had to visit all of those positions on a daily basis because I was particularly tight around the hips. And again, when there's lots of different variations, we have your standard forward fold, we have your couch stretch up against the wall, all fantastic exercises. You need to pick the ones that are best for you and the ones that you're actually going to do. Now for line conditioning, we have 2 main variations depending on your level. We have the wall drills and then we have the floor drills. Now because this is conditioning, we need to be able to hold for at least 30 seconds in these positions. If we can't, we need to make it slightly easier. And if we're getting over 60 seconds, we need to make it slightly harder. Now the best place for most people to start is the back position. So laying down on the back, put the head on the floor, and then all we're gonna think about is extending the legs away from me. Now as I extend the legs away from me, I wanna push my low back into the floor and make sure I keep contact. As soon as that low back comes up, that means I've pushed it too far in that direction. So abs on, push the low back into the floor, extend the legs as much as you can. If you can get them straight, then perfect. We just hold that for time. If it's still comfortable, I can take the arms above my head as well. Now the head can come off. We just got to be careful that we don't feel it in the neck too much. So extending away, and ideally come down as close as you can to the floor with the heels and hold there. Now if you can get this for 60 seconds, then great, you're probably ready to go into the chest to wall position. Other options are chest down on the floor in this position, posterior tilt, so not doing this, not arching the butt up in the air, but squeezing the butt cheeks together, pushing the toes into the floor, lift the belly button off the floor, chin touching the floor, looking at the hands. If you can, lift the hands up as well, but keeping that belly button off. Again, if 60 seconds is comfortable in that position, chest to wall is the way to go. So for the chest to wall line drill, we're just gonna stand up into that position, like so. We want to be in this position, not this position, and then just hold there for time. If this is easy, I can walk the hands in closer to the wall and again hold there, but only toes touching. Remember, we want that slight posterior position, not anterior and arching the body in that way. So staying like that. If we can get 30 seconds plus here, this is the one to work on, as it's going to carry over really nicely to the actual handstand. But if you can't last here for 10, 20 seconds, stick with the line drills and slowly progress to this one. Now next is balance. So we want to start exploring the world of balancing on our hands. Now most people aren't going to be up to doing a freestanding handstand yet, but there's lots of other arm balances that you can start to explore, which is going to carry over to the handstand balance when you're ready. Now the most common one is a crow position or a frog, but we could be doing forearm headstands and other arm balances like that. Now the other nice thing about the crow or the frog position is going to put you into a handstand position in terms of the hands and the wrists. So conditioning this position is going to be good. But before you do that, you might need to start to just warm up the hands and the wrists by doing some circles with the shoulders on top of the hands, pushing the floor away, different directions, and then doing that one I was just showing you, peeling the hands up and down in different directions, and just make the body happy to put weight into the hands. Then we can start to explore the crow or froggy position, so bringing the knees onto the elbows or the knees on the outside. So that's more of a frog position, this is more of a crow position, and then all I'm going to do is take the head and shoulders forwards and slightly down as it decreases the weight in my toes. Now ideally the toes would lift up here, but if you don't feel comfortable to do that, just think you're decreasing the weight out of your toes and increasing the weight into the hands and the shoulders. So I could be holding there for time. And I recommend we accumulate 30 seconds and do a couple of sets of that. So eventually you accumulate in 1 minute in this position, ideally here, ideally there, or if we need to, just stay there for time. And then we finish with the fun bit, the handstand skill. So we want to be working something like a kick up or a step up, something that's going to take us towards the handstand entry. So this is where we're practicing the correct setup. So our hands are down on the floor, our shoulders are directly over our hands, our focal point is between the index fingers. We lock that into position and then we just try and kick towards the wall. Now we might not touch the wall, but the first goal would be to touch. And this show control, keeping the shoulders on top, keeping that strong base. What we don't want to be doing is throwing backwards, hitting our head into the wall. We want to be keeping that nice and static there. Once we can do that, we can go 1, 2, and then come back down, and then eventually kick up and touch on the wall. Now, if you don't feel comfortable to kick up to the wall yet, we might just want to start to build that confidence and strength by taking a foot to the wall, stepping up towards the handstand, coming back down again. So something like this. Again, strong base, just lifting the weight on top. You don't have to put your foot on the wall. You could start with a chair or a box or the bed. Hands there, foot on top, and then just lift up. Nice and slow, feel in control. Remember, we're just slowly conditioning the body towards a handstand. We don't want to scare the body. We want to build confidence, and then we slowly progress it to harder and harder progressions. Now just remember, this is going to be very individual to you. So this needs to be on your levels, your level of conditioning, your level of flexibility, posture, and training history. Give your body time to adapt. It doesn't have to be every day, but if you can get this 4 or 5 times a week, it's going to set you up with a great foundation to start layering on harder and harder progressions and send you down the pathway to that freestanding handstand. Reach out if you have any questions. If you'd like a program to follow, check out my app, link is down in the description, and I'll speak to you in the next one.